On March 8, 2014, Malaysia Airlines Flight MH370 left Kuala Lumpur for Beijing on what should have been a routine overnight journey. On board were 239 people, 227 passengers, and 12 crew. Less than an hour after takeoff, the Boeing 777 disappeared from civilian radar and entered history as one of aviation's greatest mysteries. More than a decade later, the main wreckage has still not been found, and the unanswered question remains painfully simple: what happened to MH370? The aircraft, registered 9MMRO, took off from Kuala Lumpur International Airport shortly after midnight local time and climbed normally to its cruising altitude of 35,000 feet. There was nothing in its early flight path to suggest trouble. The crew checked in routinely with air traffic control, and the aircraft proceeded toward waypoint Igari, near the boundary where control would pass from Malaysian to Vietnamese authorities. At 1:19 a.m. Malaysian time, MH370 acknowledged instructions to contact Ho Chi Minh Area Control. Its final radio message was calm and ordinary: "Good night, Malaysian 370. That was the last recorded voice transmission from the flight. Radar data shows the aircraft passed Igari about a minute later. Then, something extraordinary happened. After passing Igari, the plane's transponder stopped transmitting, causing it to vanish from standard civilian radar displays. But MH370 had not fallen from the sky at that point. Military radar later showed that the aircraft changed course, turned back across the Malay Peninsula, and continued flying for hours. The official Malaysian investigation found that these deviations were difficult to explain as the result of a simple systems malfunction alone. Later simulator work suggested the initial turnback was likely made under manual control rather than autopilot, although investigators could not determine who was controlling the aircraft. The report also said intervention by a third party could not be ruled out. That discovery transformed the case from an accident response into a global mystery. In the early hours after contact was lost, confusion spread among air traffic control centers. Kuala Lumpur and Ho Chi Minh each tried to establish where the aircraft had gone. At one stage, wrong assumptions were relayed that MH370 might still be flying in Cambodian airspace. Those reports proved inaccurate. Valuable time was lost while authorities tried to understand whether the aircraft had disappeared due to technical failure, communication breakdown, or something more deliberate. The 2018 safety investigation later criticized parts of the air traffic control response for delays and procedural shortcomings during those critical early moments. While the plane had vanished from radar used by civil aviation, it had not vanished completely. A separate stream of evidence later became central to the entire investigation: satellite communications data. Even after the aircraft turned away from its planned route, its satellite data unit continued exchanging automated signals with Inmarsat's network. These handshakes did not reveal a precise location in the way GPS would, but they proved that the plane remained powered and flying for several more hours. By analyzing the timing and characteristics of those signals, investigators developed arcs representing possible positions of the aircraft during each satellite exchange. That work eventually pointed away from Southeast Asia and toward the southern Indian Ocean. The final satellite-related transmission became especially important. The official investigation said the transmission associated with the so-called seventh arc was most likely linked to power interruptions caused by fuel exhaustion. In other words, the aircraft probably kept flying until its fuel ran out. Soon after, all communication stopped. That interpretation shaped the search and remains one of the strongest pieces of evidence suggesting MH370 ended its flight in the remote southern Indian Ocean. In the days immediately after the disappearance, search efforts were scattered and uncertain. Initial attention focused on the Gulf of Thailand and the South China Sea, where the aircraft was first believed to have gone missing. As more military radar and satellite evidence emerged, the search area shifted dramatically westward and then southward. Eventually, Australia took the leading operational role in a huge underwater effort in the southern Indian Ocean. According to the Australian Transport Safety Bureau, the main underwater search from 2014 to 2017 covered more than 120,000 square kilometers around the seventh arc, making it one of the most ambitious aviation search operations ever attempted. and yet it found no main wreckage. That absence of wreckage fueled years of competing theories. Some believed there had been a fire on board, perhaps linked to lithium-ion batteries in the cargo hold. Others suspected hijacking or sabotage, partly because 2 passengers had boarded using stolen passports. But many of the early suspicions weakened under investigation. Interpol and other authorities said the 2 men traveling on stolen passports were believed to be Iranian asylum seekers, not terrorists. The Malaysian report also said recovered debris did not show clear evidence of a major onboard fire, which made a long, uncontrolled flight caused by cargo fire harder to support. Another widely discussed theory involved hypoxia, a loss of cabin pressure that could incapacitate everyone on board while the aircraft continued flying on autopilot. It is a scenario aviation experts have long considered plausible because it could explain the silence from the cockpit and the long flight into emptiness. But hypoxia alone does not easily explain every maneuver, especially the early turnback, which investigators said was likely done manually. That is why the official report stopped short of endorsing any single explanation. In fact, the Malaysian safety investigation reached no definitive conclusion about the cause of the disappearance. It found no clear evidence of abnormal behavior, major medical issues, or obvious personal problems in the crew's background, though it also could not eliminate unlawful interference or a deliberate diversion. One of the most controversial elements in public discussion involved Captain Zahari Ahmad Shah's home flight simulator. Investigators recovered simulator data after the hard drive had been wiped, and some of those fragments appeared to resemble parts of MH370's eventual suspected route. That detail intensified media speculation that the captain may have planned a murder-suicide mission. But the investigation was far more cautious. The recovered coordinates came from incomplete data and did not prove a single coherent route or intentional plan. Officials found the evidential value too weak to support a firm claim of premeditation. The first real breakthrough came not from the seafloor, but from a beach. In July 2015, a wing flaperon washed ashore on Reunion Island in the western Indian Ocean. Investigators later matched serial numbers from internal components and confirmed it came from MH370. It was the first physical evidence proving the aircraft had ended up in the Indian Ocean. Over time, additional debris pieces were recovered from places including Mozambique, Tanzania, South Africa, Mauritius, and Madagascar. The Malaysian report says 3 debris items were confirmed to be from MH370, while several others were classified as almost certain or likely. Those finds supported ocean drift modeling and reinforced the conclusion that the plane came down far from its original route. For the families, however, debris was never enough. A flaperon could confirm the ocean, but it could not explain the final minutes, recover the victims, or deliver the cockpit voice recorder and flight data recorder that might finally reveal what happened. That emotional reality has shaped the MH370 story as much as radar plots and satellite arcs. Relatives spent years pushing governments for transparency, access to data, and renewed search efforts. Their anger and grief were especially visible in Beijing, where many of the passengers' relatives publicly accused Malaysian authorities of withholding the truth. Search efforts continued, but closure never came. After the first multinational underwater search ended without success, Ocean Infinity launched another private mission in 2018, which also failed to locate the wreckage. In 2025, Malaysia again approved a new Ocean Infinity search under a no-find, no-fee agreement worth $70 million if the aircraft was discovered. The mission focused on a new 15,000 square kilometer zone in the southern Indian Ocean. Yet by March 2026, no confirmed wreckage had been found. According to Reuters, recent search phases scanned about 7,571 square kilometers of seabed before harsh weather and seasonal conditions forced another pause. What makes MH370 so haunting is not only the disappearance itself, but how much remains unknown. Modern aviation is built on precision and constant tracking, yet this event exposed gaps in global monitoring systems. Investigations later pushed for stronger aircraft tracking standards to ensure a modern airliner could never vanish so completely again. The clearest picture today is that MH370 deviated from its route shortly after passing Igari. Its transponders stopped transmitting, the aircraft turned back across Malaysia, and it continued flying for hours. Satellite data strongly suggests it ultimately ended in the southern Indian Ocean after running out of fuel. Beyond that, the crucial questions remain unanswered. Why the plane turned, who controlled it in the final hours, and where the main wreckage lies. Until the wreckage is found, MH370 remains one of aviation's greatest mysteries. If you have a theory about what happened to MH370, share it in the comments. Mysteries like this remind us that some questions are still waiting for answers. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe for more.